Alright, welcome to this episode of Born to Fish. You asked for another one, so we've done another one. This is a tactics episode on Calamari, but before we get quickly into it, you guys are about to, if you guys want to see, I should say, the weather that we copped in Victoria on the weekend, check out the YouTube short that's out. Paul and I went out the other day to get some filming done, some content done and all that. And we knew there was a thunderstorm coming. And that thunderstorm hit. We knew there was going to be 20-knot winds. But it ended up being 45 knots and deadly water. The most deadliest I've ever seen Port Phillip Bay in my life. 30-minute trip back home. Ended up being an hour and 50 minutes. And that's how deadly it was. Cameras never do it justice. Just a heads up. Because of the gyro. So whatever you see on the footage, double that. And then add 10%. That's how bad it was. Anyway, so we got smacked. We had great content planned. Got out there. The weather wasn't meant to actually turn until 2 p.m. It turned at 11 p.m. Gave us an hour and a half. Started getting the whiting. We started getting the calamari, and then bang! The Port Phillip Bay just turned into hell. So we got smacked on the water the other day. So please check the weather once, check it twice, check it 3 times, check it 4 times, check it 5 times. Do what we do. We check it while we're on the water too. And every weather report said 3 p.m, 2:30, 3 p.m. They didn't put out the warning for the bad weather until 30 minutes before it hit. And we missed that warning because we were back fishing again. So we knew the wind change was coming. The wind change came. It went from 10 knot northerly to around a 12 knot southerly, which we expected a bit more with the wind change. And then from that 12 knots, it just went to 40. So 50 odd other anglers that were around us at the time. Some of them were members and some of us know us from our episodes. All having a chat down towards Queenscliff Way. And then we just went bang with the weather and we all bolted back to our boat ramps as much as we could. In fact, we ended up having to assist someone back to Werribee because their vessel was only a 4.5 metre and these waves got up to 3. So we assisted him back to make sure he got back safely too. But anyway, so go check out that short. It's pretty interesting. You asked for it and have asked why isn't the species included. Well, it is now. We were getting around to it. As you noticed with the whole stack of tactics episodes we're doing, we're getting through every species, so don't stress. This one's probably Australia's favourite, Victoria's #1 species, I don't care what anyone says, and the most easiest target species for beginners, experts, weekend warriors, whatever. You can target this species wherever, the humble calamaris. And let's roll. Here we go. So, southern calamari, probably would have to be arguably the most popular species here in Victoria. They're so widespread. You can get them as far east in Victoria as Malakuta, all the way as far west as Portland. Spread they are. The reason why they're so popular is the depth does not matter. Doesn't matter if you're off Portland, Port Fairy, Warrnambool, the east coast, out of Inverloch or something like that. You can find them anywhere from 50, 60 metres of water all the way to 0.3. That's right, I've seen them in ankle deep water while I was walking, looking for garfish when you do your netting at night, and we spooked the calamari. So that's how shallow they can be. So let's just narrow it down to more Port Phillip and a little bit of Western Port. So the information I'm giving about Port Phillip, except for the exact locations, but all this information applies to Western Port too, so it covers both bays for us, right? Now these systems are heavily calamari targeted, just due to the numbers of calamari, how easy they are, and everyone loves them, okay? Now, why are they so popular? They're available all year round. There is no certain season. Like how you got your snapper season, your gummy sharks, peak periods, and then you've got your kingfish season, your tuna season. These calamari are 365 days a year, easily targeted. But the breeding side, that's around September, where especially in Port Phillip Bay, they breed heavily around that Lonsdale Bight on the big kelp and certain seagrass beds. You can actually see the eggs and you can actually target them while they're looking after their eggs, which I don't recommend doing. That's the only thing I don't like. Leave them breed. Let them breed, then target them. Now, they're the most accessible species that we've got in Victoria, from boat to land base. Anyone can target them, right? Now, let's go into the nitty gritty where it gets on my nerve a little bit. The tackle that is required is so affordable. So many people get stuck into this eggy stuff, or it was a big big phase for years, actually. You had to buy certain rods with certain guides and all this kind of yada yada yada. That's marketing. I don't care what anyone says. Everyone that knows me, I'm blunt, I'm bloody honest. That is marketing. I was lucky enough not to get sucked into that marketing. And I've got some more marketing tactics coming up, what they do, and I'm going to blow it out of the water for you guys. Anyway, simple gear. A light 6 foot, even if you have a 7 foot, 5 foot, soft plastics rod. That's all you need, guys. A bit of a whip action in it. That's it. Don't go and buy these certain rods that are $400-500. You can pick up some Shimano Sonic rods, soft plastic rods. There's cheaper other brands in BCFs and all that other places where you can pick up some rods for $60. Right? You want it decent still. So $60 and you're into Calamari straight away. Real sizes, 2,500. That's all you need if you're purely targeting the Calamari. 2,500 real. That's it. Right? Braid, I'm going to say 15 pound to 20 pound just in case of the heavy weed. You know, did you get stuck and all that? Same goes for your leader. 15 to 20 pound. Have all that? That's it. You are set. I'm going to go into the squid jig side of things quickly. All right? Here we go. Squid jigs. Well, they're a prawn-shaped lure. That's all they are. All right? Do squid eat prawns? Hell yeah. Is that all they eat? Hell no. But they are prawn-shaped because where they live, in the weed and the kelp and all that, there is a lot of prawns and crustaceans in those as well, shrimps and stuff. But to be honest, a calamari is not going to look at that and go, oh, big prawn, I'm going to eat it. Because guess what? I use soft plastics and I catch them, right? We use fish for beta jigs, which I'll get into soon, and we catch them. The whole point is it's just a good silhouette, right? It's a prawn shape because they do target and eat prawns as well, all right? Now, what's the difference between a normal hooks on a lure compared to a squid jigs? It's barbless, right? They're prongs. They're not really hooks, okay? Prongs, I should say. And that is just due to the fact that the squid swim backwards, right? Now, these sink at different rates with different weights. So 3.5, 3 and all that. I don't go less than a 3. I use 3s minimum, that's it. Right. How do you work a calamari jig? Now, there's another craze here. Oh, you got to do the eggy whip, and this, and that, and whack. No. Especially for kids and stuff, this kind of sport is so easy. If you want to get your kids into fishing, doesn't matter if you're boat or land-based. This is the best sport to do, squid fishing. All right, I'm going to demonstrate it with a jig. Let's just grab this bad boy here. All right. Now, a slow lift and a slow sink works 99.9999% of the time. So you whip the rod up, let it sink down. Lift the rod up, let it sink down. Squid love that. And reason why? How do I know that works? Well, I call it dead man sticking. I love to do it. So you put a jig at the back of the boat. You'll see it in some of the footages and all that we do. And we just drift it at the back of the boat. All right? Don't really have to work it. Let the boat even work it. All right? There's no whipping. There's no certain, you got to go left, right. There was actions for a while. There was phases for a while. People going, you got to whip to the left, then right, and then no. Don't overcomplicate it. Go down to a pier if you want to practice, even if you have a boat. Go down to somewhere and you just cast it out and down. All right? Now, if you want a bit more, if you want to treat it, if you're a lure angler, I should say, and you want to put more action into it, treat it like a soft plastic. So a few short, sharp lifts, right? Get it flicking up, get the squid's attention, then let it drift straight back down. Flick it up, treat it like soft. I treat these like soft plastics, and I smash squid, right? And then there's the other one, which is the short whip, wind, which is that eggy technique that you don't really have to do. It's really complicated for newbies. Now, I've got a whole range with me. Not a whole range, but a small range or a good range. So I'm going to pull out a couple of each. All right, and I'm going to show you guys quickly something. All right, so we've got that color as well. We've got that color as well. Yes, and that color as well. And that one as well. Yeah. Anyway, you're going to get the gist of what I'm about to tell you. All right, forget the strict phase that I don't know if it's still around because I don't listen to it. I'm honest. Oh, you need what is it? oh, red foil in the morning behind underneath a jig, and then a silver foil in the afternoon, and this foil in the middle of the day, and that foil. Don't listen to that crap. It may work a little bit better, but you know what? Even if you go back and look at the episodes with Steve and all that, where we smash squid all the time, and Paul, I'm just going for a colour that I just want to use. The only difference with the squid is they do only see in black and white. Apparently, they don't see in colour. But the main aspect that they do see is UV. So if your jig's got UV, like this bad boy here, that's a UV one. I've got a UV one here, a glow in the dark, which has got some UV in it. But then I've got non-UV jigs, right? They see in UV. So without UV or even with the UV, they basically see in a silhouette, okay, guys? Silhouette. So let's say, for argument's sake, this jig is worth $28, $30. It's a high quality UV jig. Wow. But then you see this bad boy that looks like a King George whiting to me. No UV, just a cloth, right? Or this one here, no cloth, right? Because you've got this bullcrap warm jacket, cold jacket stuff. Anyway, hard body, you know, cloth, right? And these ones, say this one goes for $7.99 and this one goes for $10.99. Now, buying something like that, two of these might bust your budget because that's going to be $60 for two of them, but you can get these two for around $25, right? That's just estimate. This I think this one is actually worth 25, and this one was worth around 10. Anyway, right? And then you got this one that's like $18 and stuff like that. Okay. I'm telling you now, this one will work just as much as the UV one, even though it doesn't have UV. You do not have to buy the jigs they're telling you to buy because you're not going to catch. Trust me, squid see in silhouette. So what I tend to do is I go for a range of colours. Alright? As you can see here, I've got a full range. I've even got these ones. These are glow in the dark ones. That's actually glowing with the daylight. How cool is that? Alright, anyway. Then I've just got a blue cloth one, you know, with a bit of glow in it. Now, why I'm saying that is just swap and change if something's not working. Or treat squid fishing like soft plastics fishing, okay? The squid see in silhouette. So what I'm saying is swap and change colours like you would with a soft plastic, but then take into note certain colours for squid put out different silhouettes, and you can almost see that right now. That's going to put out a better silhouette in a bright day than this one, right? Then, you know, cloudy days, this will put out a better silhouette probably than this one. Then middle of the day, that would put out an insane silhouette, you know what I mean? Now, think about this. UV. You know, you're going to have UV. That's what I'm telling you, that they're telling you. No, you don't, because guess what? You can catch squid in the middle of the night. I've caught squid in the middle of the night. I've caught squid in the middle of the night with a black jig. Because squid's just seeing silhouettes, right? So I've got a whole range of colours that I've just shown you. Buy the jig that suits your budget. Just make sure it swims right. So get a good brand, a proven brand, even the cheap brands, right? These ones are like $10.99 or something like that. Then you've got these ones that are $28.99. Then you've got these ones that are $18, $15 and all that, right? I think this one was $12 again. But you know what? They slay squid. They all got squid rip marks on them on the cloths, right? And if you want a squid jig that's going to last you longer sometimes because your budget's a bit tighter or you're learning, go a hard body jig. All right? There's no cloth on these. All right? No cloth. They're almost like a hard body lure but in the shape of a squid jig. And they will last way longer because the squid can't rip off the cloth. All right? So keep the simple, so keep it simple, right? Keep swapping the colours, UV, non-UVs, until you find the one that's working on the day. The squid will pick up on a certain silhouette. Now, do you want to simplify your squid fishing a little bit more? You're getting into it, or you know, you're way into it, but you just can't be bothered doing all this, you know, working the jigs and working it. I'm not really into it. Well, let's go the float method. Now, I don't have any on me because I do it. Well, I should say, I was going to say I don't, but I do, but it's rare. This, all right, floating. So you get a float, a squid jag, and a bait. Throw it out, you leave it there, let it bob with the waves and the current or whatever. If you're on a jetty or a boat, even when you're drifting, just let it drift behind the boat. And this proves the theory, you don't need a whip, you don't need this colour, you don't need that colour, you don't need that. Because your baited jig that would be sitting there, no word of a lie, like that, right? Like how this image is here. All that bait is doing is just moving like that the whole time. And guess what? Squid eat it because it's natural. right? So you can even do a float method. That's really good for kids. Get them something to watch. You get them to work a squid jig while they're watching a float. Keeps them entertained all day and they will catch, all right? Let's go quickly into where you find your calamari. Now, I'm talking about Western Port and Port side of things, okay? I've got one rule, and it works for me. Everyone knows I love catching my squid, so does Paul and all that. What's that rule? Think whiting. Same grounds. Wherever you catch King George whiting, you'll catch. This is for boat anglers. You'll catch calamari. You could be anchored on the whiting, catching whiting, see big weed beds around you, cast a jig out, bang, like I did in that last episode with Dom. We couldn't get the squid butt. They were just really weird acting, but we had squid coming to the back of the boat because they're on the same grounds. So you could utilise two species in one there. You go on planning for your whiting. You don't want to go to this ground, then you have to go all the way over here. You know, you're going to waste time. You're on the time restraint while you're fishing, okay? You go to your whiting grounds, just find the bigger black patches of weed, do a few drifts over them to see if there's calamari in them. There's not always going to be a calamari on the weed because you don't go sounding calamari. You just basically finding big weed patches and drifting over them, casting jigs, drifting jigs, beta jigs over them, and hoping that there is some calamari hiding there. And that's what you would do if you're going to go whiting fishing, for argument's sake, right? You'd go to the grounds that you'd go whiting fishing on, like this, right? And you just target those big black patches, and then once the tide's ready for the whiting, you've probably caught a couple of calamari, bang, sit on the whiting. You spend less time moving, more time fishing. And it's vice versa too. You're running low on whiting bait, you're catching whiting. If there's a few big black patches of weed around you, have a quick flick, see if you can get a couple. If you can't, pull up the anchor for 5 minutes, find another patch, drift. You might get 2 or 3 squid off that one patch, go back to your whiting grounds, you're back on the whiting. That's how good it is. Now for land-based anglers, all your piers, your wharfs and your marinas should or do hold squid. Now, key is around those structures, the wharfs and all that, and the piers, look for if there's weed around. It can't just be sand. Doesn't matter where you go. If it's just all sand around you, no good. If it's sand patches and weed patches, you're doing good. If it's just mostly weed, it's probably going to be a good squid ground. Let's go into the life cycle of a squid. Now, we've all been told over the years they live for 365, 364 days in a year, then they die. Once they breed, they die. It's actually somewhat true, but we found out recently they only live for 360, so they live 5 days short of a year. So what I'm trying to tell you there is, it doesn't matter if you catch a squid this big, you can keep them. They're most sustainable species with a bag limit of 10. A squid this big could still be 6 months old. You don't know that. He's just not growing as quick as usual, yeah? A squid this big might be 3 months old, and he's just eating a lot and growing big. Do you know what I'm saying? So the big breeders, the little ones, they still breed too. So there's no thing of, it's only the big ones that breed. No, calamari, they all breed once they get to a certain maturity, right? Now, why I say don't feel guilty, they live to eat, they live to breed, and they live to be eaten. They're basically a food source of the ocean, so don't feel guilty. Bag limits, I've already covered that. You got 10 per person here in Victoria with no size limits. Don't be really, scared. The breeding side, I've already covered that, basically. So, yeah, Port Lonsdale and all that, in the Lonsdale Bight, it is a very famous breeding ground. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, I think Flinders is in Western Port as well, so there's a good breeding ground down there. Yes, you can still go and target them, right, in the breeding area. They're usually easier to target when they're breeding. But I just, morally, I just say, hey, let them do their thing, have way more calamari. And you don't have to wait for the next year for them to be catchable like some fish, or a year later. They're catchable within a month, right? They'll go from this to that in a month to that, or even this in 2 months. You know what I mean? They're catchable with. So if you let them breed, think about this. You let them breed, you go and target squid elsewhere, and you leave those big breeders to do what they're doing. In around 2 months, you're going to have another couple of 100,000 squid in the bay. Yeah? Wouldn't you rather that? Right? Then you can go and target those big breeders before they die. What times do we target squid? Now, boat and land-based here again, okay? Boat, let's go there first. Any time of the day, doesn't matter. Morning, noon, day, midday, night, doesn't matter, right? As long as the water is clear and you're on those weed patches, you're in a chance. That's how good they are. Land-based, it's a bit different. night, early morning before the sun comes up, till mid-morning. You can catch them through the day, but they're a bit less. And then afternoon into the night. So your peak periods for land-based is night, pre-dawn, dawn, afternoon, dark. The middle of the day, yes, you do catch them, but they're a lot less numbers and a lot less frequently too. They might be there, but they're not eating because they're only hugging there for food. Now, why? The prime time, I'm going to say absolute prime time for squid at land-based is night, and this is the reason why. All the pier lights, the wharf lights, the marina lights attract all your microorganisms, which attract the shrimp and the bait fish and all that, then attract the squid. If you're going to target squid, land-based especially, you've got the pier lights, brighten up the water. Where that shadow is into the night, that's where you want to be casting your jigs, right? Even though you can't tell if there's weed there, you just got to hope there is. Target there because that's where the squid are going to be sitting right on the edge of that light, waiting for fish to come into the light to eat, and then that's how they ambush them. So, that's how easy it is to target calamari, okay? We've covered pretty much almost everything already, right? Your tackle, your jigs, your times of days, the season, which is all year round, and what grounds you need to target them on. The next thing for you guys is if you want exact locations in Port Phillip Bay, I mean, I've pretty much explained everything for calamari for you guys, right? But if you want the exact locations where they're feeding, what times they're feeding and stuff like that, head over to the Patreon account. It's all there. We've got actual GPS marks up at the moment for the reefs that are holding calamari in big numbers. Go and check the report from Luke. He slayed them the other day. He got out just before us, so he got out earlier than us, or the day before, I should say, and absolutely slaughtered them. And for land-based guys too, the land-based locations that are actually firing at the moment for calamari, and at the times they're firing as well. So it's all over there in the Patreon account if you want all that extra bit of information. Now, water temperature does not affect squid. This is why we say they're all year round. Water temperature does not matter. It can be midwinter, it could be autumn, it could be spring. They're not like a fish where they rely on certain water temperatures or, certain factors of the bay fluctuating in temperatures for them to be on a hot bite, a cold bite, a hot bite. That does not work with calamari. Calamari. One other big advice I've got with calamari. You can catch them on the slack, yes. But I treat calamari a bit like whiting, a bit like snapper, a bit like gummy sharks. Treat them like that and you're going to catch way more. No flow, no go. So calamari are very, very lazy. They're like almost a Murray cod of Port Phillip Bay. They will hug in weed, sit over weed. They're very camouflageable. They'll change their colours to their environment. They will hug over a weed bed, right, or in a weed bed and wait for a tidal system to start kicking in. So it doesn't matter where you are in Port Phillip Bay, they wait for the tide. And they will sit there, and I've watched them on the Seaview products as well. I've watched them sitting there, and we've targeted them on the slackish water, and they just back off. They just back right off. They don't want nothing to do with it. And then you watch them, when the tide starts moving, they all sit there with their head into the current, right? Or their backs into the current because the current flies over them because they swim backwards. And they'll sit there like that, and they'll wait for bait fish to come past them or a bait fish to come up over the top of it, and then they attack. They're ambush predators, guys. That's why you got to target those weed beds. They sit and hide. Then what they do is they'll move from weed bed to weed bed over the course of a tide or over a course of a day, looking for more food. Right? They just hop, skip, and weed for more food, basically. Right? When the tides are slowing down, the slack water's coming. They actually can be very difficult to target. You still will get them. You still do get them. And some people will say, hey, man, I bag out. Right? Yeah, you will find a couple of squid that will go nuts that didn't get to feeding during the tide. But if you aim for the tide, so if you start fishing for them just at the end of a slack into a running tide, doesn't matter if it's a run in or run out, if you fish from the slack water to the start of the tide through the whole tide, you've got more chances of catching calamari than if you treated them like a snapper, for argument's sake, or a whiting, the last 3 hours of the tide, slack water, and then the next 3 hours. If you treat it like that, you're probably going to catch less. So what I would do is look at your tide chart, you'll notice, say, tide, the slack water is at 12:30 p.m., right? Launch at 11:30. Fish that last hour, right? And then fish through the slack water, like I said. They will feed, the odd one or two will feed through there. But you want to be there for that next tide. And then that's when you start your calamari session. Sometimes you only need 15 minutes and you've got your 10 if you're by yourself. You might need half an hour and you've got your 30 if you're with 3 people. Do you get what I'm saying? Calamari fishing can go from 0 to like that, or like that to 0 in seconds. You got to they swim in pairs, so you got to rely on your mate or your skill. If you're land-based or boat-based, if you catch a calamari, what you want to be doing is having a jig out behind that calamari that's hooked, because they'll always have a follower. They swim in pairs or they'll swim in small packs of squid, right? They're not called schools. I think they're called something else, but I call them a pack of squid. So the weeds, if you've got a whole section of weed like this, there might be 20 squid in that whole area, 30 squid in that whole area. And boat traffic, boat pressure, people catching them before you get there might slaughter them, because they will hold in that area and feed, right? So if you go to that patch and go, hang on, this looks good. We got told this should be good, this area, but we're not catching. Think about what time you've launched and how many boats are on the water. You got to try and move from weed patch to weed patch until you find that pack of squid. Like I said, they'll sit. If this is a weed patch, they'll sit. There'll be 3 or 4 or 6 or 7 of them. They'll sit over that weed patch together to ambush and feed, right? Or sometimes they might sit in 2s and 3s. If there's no food, or they've eaten a lot of food in this area, then they'll move to the next patch. Or they might be here feeding like crazy. 2 or 3 boats have gone in that area and caught all, say, 10 of them, right? Then there's no squid here until probably the next tide, to a couple of squid will swim through. So if you go over this weed patch and you're not catching, go to the next one. You just keep drifting. What I say is line up your drift to the next patch. So if you're fishing a patch that's here and you know there's a patch over here and the wind's going that way, go past this patch, fish that one, no good, fish that one, you'll end up catching squid. That's the way it works. Same as land-based. You're walking along the jetty, you can see weed patches, right? With the tidal currents, land-based side of things, it really doesn't matter, because the tide either comes in or out past up here. What you want to be doing is when you're walking up here, look at all the weed patches. Start at the first one. Don't go, oh, that one's a bit darker, I'm going to go to that one. Oh, that one's a bit bigger than that. Sometimes we can have a weed patch. I kid you not, in Port Phillip Bay, I've seen weed patches the size of this tackle box. I've set a drift towards it, plugged the jig straight on top of it. We've pulled 2 or 3 off it. So the weed patch does not matter. The size of the weed patch does not matter about the squid. So if you're land-based, I'm trying to say is you've got big weed patches and then a couple of small ones all the way up the jetty, right? Start from the start. Start from the shallows. Doesn't matter the time of day. Squid will be in any depth, any time of the day. They just want to be. They just want to be where the food is. That's all they want to do. So start at the first weed patch, and literally, I know it. Sometimes people can be impatient. I can too. And you're flicking at one weed patch, working it, and you're like, oh, it's not good, but I like the look of that. And you'll skip 2 or 3 weed patches or a bunch of weed and go to that next one and wonder why you're not catching. And then you look back and Joe Blow's in that middle patch smashing it. It's because you skipped it. Do not skip any weed, boat or land-based, I should say. Every weed patch is potential for calamari. So when I walk up and down a jetty, say if we're doing land-based, I will hit every single weed patch on every side of the jetty and make sure I've covered that whole entire pier before I move to the next location. If I'm on the boat, I do the same thing. We will stop on every weed patch we see. So if there's a whole bunch of weed up in front of us and it's just like goes for ages, we do that whole drift no matter what. If we pull a whole heap off there, we might do the drift again, but slightly to the left. There is a short I've done on YouTube. Go check it out. I explain how to do a drift in a boat. But what I'm trying to say is when you've drifted down one whole weed patch and you've pulled 2 or 3 or 4 of it, don't go straight back down that weed patch again. Move to the left or move to the right and start a new line again. You'll find way more squid, trust me. So, I hope all this information helps you with your calamari session next time you go. Maybe you might go out on the weekend, you find a bit of patch of wind and you can get out. Great. Hopefully you can catch some squid. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next episode of Born to Fish. After this one, go and check out that weather footage. And I'm telling you, the footage that you see, add double that, then add an extra 10% on top. That's how rough it was. All right, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers.